Recording.
A very good Sunday afternoon to all of you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Auntie. Yes.
Great. Welcome back, everyone. I just want to repeat one little line I read yesterday. And it's so important for all of us to live our own truth, to really become brutally honest with ourselves about our very deeply embedded emotions also. There could be insecurity, there could even be sensitivity, being oversensitive to issues. It could be anger, resentment, any emotions, right? And they are deeply embedded only because it's not about this incarnation, many incarnations before this. So we're carrying so much from the past. As we've learned, if we don't let go this life, then again we'll have to carry it into our next. Maybe we weren't given that wisdom in our previous incarnations to have the tools and the know-how. And of course we didn't have Guruji in our lives, maybe not, I don't know. But to be able to let go and drop the embedded emotions. So this is so beautiful when he says, by being blunt and honest with yourself. It's not to do with the other people, how they behave towards you. They are just a mirror in your life showing you. They're introducing or reintroducing you to you. So by being blunt and honest with yourself, the moment you are truly in search of the truth will set you free. And this is what we need to really, I think, absorb today and take home from yesterday. So here goes, back to the moment. Enjoy the moment. Be here as much as you can and assimilate and imbibe the wisdoms, the pearls of wisdom that Ruzbe has given us. So here we go with the Fakir, a continuation. So Rudra was back, as we are too, at his parents' home, in his former bedroom. But strangely, he could see himself and his son. This incident took place years ago, and here he was, as dead as a doorknob, but reliving an incident that changed his life. He remembered this night clearly. This was the first time Rudra had glimpsed the power of chanting. He saw his son, and love emanated for the curly-haired young child. His boy was around 7. Rudra looked at himself. He saw a young man full of life. But for some strange reason, Rudra realized that though the man was him, he now wasn't that man. Not emotionally, not spiritually, or emotionally. It's repeating emotionally. Not emotionally, spiritually, emotionally. Rudra looked around the room. He saw his daughter sleeping next to her mother. They were both fast asleep. Okay, you worm, I am going to hypnotize you to sleep. Both father and son were lying down on the mattress, which was on the floor. The young boy, with big eyes, looked at his father and giggled. The father was trying to hypnotize the boy to sleep. Okay, love, shut your eyes. The boy giggled, but obeyed. He loved being part of the crazy spiritual stuff that his father kept getting involved in. But most of the time, his father's craziness made a lot of sense. His father had taught him how to be a medium for healing. It was so simple. Why did adults make such a hue and cry about all this? His dad was so cool and blasé about all that had to do with energy, and he made it fun. Like now, his father had gotten it into his head that he could hypnotize him to sleep. But of course, like everything else, the boy had faith in his father. Sometime or the other, his madness fructified into something surreal and crazily divine. Okay, now, relax yourself, boy. Let's start with your feet. Lord, love a freaking defrosted duck. Your feet aren't washed. Focus. Focus, Rudra. Okay, relax your feet. Breathe. Relax. Your feet are relaxed. You can feel them rest. You can hear them say, hey, you curly-haired goon, wash me before you sleep. Anyway, your feet are relaxed. Now let's get your calves. Rudra saw himself and his son. He felt his vibrations get heavy, for he knew that in 2 years, both his children would be taken away from him, and he wouldn't see them. For a while, Rudra observed the scene as if an outsider. Sometimes you could even become a stranger to yourself. And that is what we say, that be a witness to your life. Don't get so involved and attached to your life that you're not able to take a step back and to view it objectively. We become so subjective about everything. Mera ghar, meri gaadi, mere bacche, that we don't grow because we have cooped ourselves up in that attachment so densely that it's difficult to detach and to free ourselves. Now came the best part. Your whole body is relaxed. You are sleeping. The boy was asleep. Rudra gleamed with joy. He had learned the art of hypnosis. This hadn't taken much time. He was good at all this nonsense. Oh shit, I forgot to give the main command. He cleared his throat and then back in his deep voice began. So, my Jan, you sleep well, and in the morning around 7:30, you will wake up, smile, lightly bang your head against his cupboard, phone your father's publisher, tell him to go wax his legs, and then have a great, great day. Sleep now. You are asleep now. You are asleep. You are asleep. No, I'm not asleep. I am not asleep. The little boy opened his eyes and nodded in the negative. It will take time sometimes, Daddy. Both father and son began to crackle with laughter. You rat. Both father and son for a while told each other vague stories, and then slowly the little boy, the heart and soul of Rudra, slept soundly. Rudra saw himself sit on the mattress. He knew what was coming. He saw himself shut his eyes, and then the soft, inaudible chanting began. On the mattress, Rudra of the past chanted Baba's name. The chanting began to change the aura around the young man. Rudra, who was in the spirit now, saw Baba emerge. He saw Baba caress the young man's aura, and then Baba touched Rudra on his forehead, and at the same time at the back of Rudra's head. Rudra, who was chanting, suddenly started to feel the heat between his eyebrows. Though his eyes were shut, he felt he could even see his breath. Then slowly, as though his eyes had turned inward, Rudra felt he could see within his head. Total darkness, but a beautiful sheen of blackness appeared. Rudra could feel as though his eyes were staring inward to the back of his head, when now he felt a deep throb. He began to feel a weight on his shoulders, as though some invisible energy was forcing him to lie down on the mattress. Rudra's focus was still inward, at the back of his head. He felt himself rest his back on the bed, but still his eyes were looking inward. And then it happened. He saw and felt as though he was floating up in the sky and viewing this strange one-sided battle raging somewhere down on the ground. Slowly he began to descend, and he saw two groups fighting. In reality, one group was massacring the other group. He realized the ones being slaughtered were Native Americans. They were suddenly surrounded by white folks who were annihilating them. Wherever he looked, the white folks with their guns were scything the natives. It was brutal warfare. Then, as though the camera pans up and does a close-up, so did Rudra feel himself rise and then move upwards and forward. And then he came face to face with another native man, an old man, obviously the chief, who watched helplessly as his people were being killed. Rudra looked deep into the old chief's eyes, and he saw such infinite sadness that there was no need for explanation. Rudra recognized himself as the old chief. Rudra looked around. The chief, along with a few elderly Native Americans, stared at the bloodbath. A few men prevented the old chief from going down and being killed. The old man wanted to be with his people. He wanted to die along with the brave ones, whose only fault was obeying his command that had backfired. The old man knew that he had been betrayed and thus taken the wrong decision. And because of this, his people were being butchered. He, in a soft voice, pleaded to the young men to let him be with his people. They lowered their eyes in respect but wouldn't budge. He was their chief, and without him, there was no clan. They understood what he was going through. But in warfare, things tend to go wrong. Nothing good could come by the old chief sacrificing his life for those who were already in the carnage. The old man shut his eyes, and then nudged his faithful horse to run away. Then Rudra heard these words. That is why you don't want to lead Vidya. That is why you don't want to take responsibility. This old man is you. And days later, the old man quietly disappeared into the mountains, never to be heard or seen by anybody. He died days later, as he had left without food, water, or adequate clothing. He let himself die. In reality, he died of a broken heart. And for many lifetimes, this incident had been carried in the abyss of your subconscious mind. That is why you don't want to lead, my son. It's time you realized that you couldn't carry the cross of those who were slaughtered, as their karma necessitated that manner of leaving the body. But you are still carrying the cross, my son. Let go, let go, let go. Rudra is back now with Baba. My son, what you saw was a revelation. It wasn't regression. It was self-induced hypnosis. It was an auto-suggestion. Through the power of one's prayers and by being in the moment and combining the two, along with the Master's grace, we made you tap into the karmic vault, your eternal data bank, which stores all memory from every lifetime and beyond. You mean to say, Baba, that what I went through is accessible to everybody? I don't see any feathers on your astral radar, my son. You are special, but then each one of us is special. The only thing required is a desire and fire to want to change for the better. Change is the ultimate reality. Change is mandatory, but positive change is optional. What you experienced when you saw a glimpse of an important incident in your life is something every individual can experience, as long as they don't pray and chant and be in the moment, only to gain such an experience. Never yearn for psychic experiences. Yearn for the Master's presence and love. Crave to merge with the Master. In that journey, all these experiences will be yours. The reason why prayers are mandatory for the soul's journey to its original form is because via prayers and chanting and being noble, one taps into the reservoir of memories that entrap each individual to the gross world. Once these memories are trapped via prayers and being in the moment, revelations take place. And when revelations take place, change for the better is mandatory. There is no other way. Man-induced regression does not necessarily mean positive change. For in most regressions, the one being regressed is still holding on to both dimensions. I didn't understand a single word you said, Baba. Oh, my child, we're slightly more intelligent than a discarded shoelace. What I'm trying to tell you is very simple. Once an individual is regressed, the person is not completely hypnotized. It's more often a self-induced state. Now, when a person is regressed and asks questions, the person answers these questions. It means the person is logically in two dimensions. One dimension is brought about by so-called hypnosis, and the other dimension is brought about by the other dimension is of answering questions or recounting what the person is so-called experiencing in the past life. That means the individual is neither here nor there. In revelations, you are there and only there. It might last for a few seconds or a few minutes, but you are only in that lifetime. You might either get an answer through revelations or through dreams. That is why we say pay attention to your dreams too. They speak much. We often communicate through dreams. Many times dreams are a manifestation of one's subconscious mind. Well, those dreams can take with a pinch of salt or worse, like your tea. Never know where one stands with those images. But when a dream comes through out of the ordinary, when the individual hasn't consciously or subconsciously been dwelling on the subject, then take notice of those dreams. You remember once you were in a group seance and you sort of dozed off and your friends were in some heavy duty meditation? Rudra smiled. He remembered that day too well. He had been called for a group meditation. He was never really into such activity. For him, meditation was best done alone, and usually with a cigarette between his lips. There were a few of them, seated in a circle. Rudra had been tired. When the meditation session began, he promptly shut his eyes and in seconds was religiously fast asleep. And then he experienced a revelation. He saw a big built man with long hair. He wasn't sure of the person's nationality, but in all probability, the man was either Scottish or Irish. Rudra knew it was himself from another lifetime. He was a huge man with long flowing blonde hair. The man walks up the mountain path and enters a village. He's treated with respect, but people keep their distance. The man walks up the steps of a cottage, and there is a woman sleeping on a bed. His mother or wife? Rudra wasn't too sure. The man wakes the woman, lifts her head up, and then pushes the window open, and both man and woman stare at the world outside. It's a cold place. The next thing Rudra sees is a man getting ready for war. He's fighting some authorities, a rebel. His men are like him, huge, with flowing blonde hair, unkempt clothes, and most of them have long flowing beards. They are a rough lot, and the man is a leader. The rebels and those in power, with their huge army, are face to face. The man has invented various mechanisms to kill the enemy. And the battle commences. A lot of bloodshed. Though the man's army is 1/5 the size of the opposite camp, it is obvious that they are natural warriors. Suddenly, the man sees the leader of the opposite camp and moves towards him. The other man is a big and proficient. Both the men begin to fight, and suddenly the others stop. It is obvious that this fight is personal, and everybody focuses on this individual vendetta. Rudra sees himself and the other man. There is a lot of blood. Both are equals, but Rudra knows that there is a strange animal anger and hunger raging in him in that past lifetime. Suddenly, the commander of the regimented army falls and is on the ground. Everybody from Rudra's side is crying out for blood and death. Rudra sees himself begin to hack the other man. There is so much blood that both the bodies are covered in it. The man, Rudra, in his past lifetime, then picks up the crude sword. He lifts it up, and there is more hysteria. Rudra brings the sword down, inches away from the man's throat, but he stops. He sees the other man's eyes. They're pleading for mercy. He hears his men crying out for blood. He looks around, looks back into the eyes of his so-called enemy. And then he sees the futility of violence, the madness of violence, and the stupidity of killing and the insanity of it all. He inhales deeply and throws the sword away. Rudra sees himself walk away. He walks into the mountains. He knows that he leaves all violence and becomes a monk. He takes care of the sick, the weak, the hungry for the rest of his life. And then again, a sentence is broken. You are capable of extreme violence, but have turned your back to such emotion a long time ago. Hence, consciously trying not to lose yourself in anger, revenge. That day, Rudra woke up with a start and saw around him folks still meditating. He thought he had dreamt some strange concoction of the subconscious mind. After the meditation session, the person conducting the meditation looked around and said, I could see a lot of bloodshed, swords, violence, crude and brute, force, and then a revelation. Strange meditation session, this. Then she looked at Rudra and smiled, and Rudra realized that this hadn't been a dream, but once again a strange regression. His lesson was simple. Don't once again fall into the clutches of hate and violence. How beautiful. So we all know where we have come from, but what matters is where we are going to. It is not about the past, it's about the present. So, but yes, once we go into deep meditation and our sole purpose becomes to move towards the light, then we get glimpses of our past and we're able to let go of whatever deeply embedded emotions there are within us. Tea time, guys. I hope you've got your teas. Mine's very bitter today. It's green tea. I always get a different flavor every day. After the meditation session, the person conducting, okay. Baba, you mean everybody's graced with such visions? Yes. All those who are in the moment and yearn to better their spiritual lot. If you are keen on evolving, nature will assist you to evolve. If for evolvement, your masters or guides feel you need to revisit another lifetime to learn from that experience, which you've just said, then you would relive those experiences, either in a dream. You may or may not remember, but the effect or the purpose of the dream will have been achieved. Or you might relive what you need to learn via spiritual regression. The way we made you relive those two experiences. It depends how strong the urge is to evolve, walk the path, and merge with the master. When you chant or meditate, the only real prayer worth praying and which makes the master happy and proud is to ask God to help you to gracefully and humbly and happily move towards the light and merge with the light and then become the light, which means to move towards him, to merge with him, and in the end to remove all duality that exists between you and him. Once that is your only priority, then all of nature will assist you in that noble pursuit. And this applies to all those who want to be better human beings, wow, and who try to walk the path irrespective of their calling, weaknesses, failures, and circumstances. Remember, it is a primary need of the soul to move towards the light and merge with the light and become the light. And the soul is always assisted if the individual also makes moving towards the light his or her priority. To move towards the creator is the only priority worth living and dying for. All else is shadow boxing with them. So everything else is actually a mirage in our lives, if you think about it. Like Guruji used to say, कि सब कुछ ऐसे ही रह जाना अनीता, सिर्फ नाम दी कमाई नाल जानी है. When we truly move towards the light, truly, when we live by his hukum, everything we're doing is his hukum. And he really helped those who help themselves. And if we really want help to be better, to be humble, to be more compassionate, to completely dissolve our arrogance and ego, then he will help us. And that has to be asked for from the heart. So when he says to move towards the creator is the only priority worth living and dying for, all else is shadow boxing Veda. Rudra sat with Baba on the beach. Rudra still couldn't get over the vibrant colors and exotic music that seemed to perpetually cleanse his soul. It was as though the very heavens rejoiced each moment, and that brought forth a canvas of colors of the melody so divine that it rejoiced the soul every moment for eternity. Also, the fragrance was exquisite, something so subtle that it was though it prevailed within, like the musk from the dale. How beautiful. So I hope you're all enjoying it. It's so wonderful that we're all protected, but we're all products of our past karmas, and we are all becoming products of his grace and his eternal mercy upon each one of us, providing we ask for the real deal and not to ask for the material, because we don't want to be entrenched in the material. Guruji always said, Ash karo, enjoy the worldly, because that the world is also created by him, right? So enjoy the worldly, but don't crave for anything, and don't get attached to anything or any person, because Guruji has taught us to love everyone, but don't get attached. And also, when we get too close to anybody, I think there is more of a risk of them hurting us also, because they cannot change their temperament. And you being a sensitive temperament is very hard to kind of accept any kind of, anger or rudeness coming from the other person, or their, arrogance towards you. So you just take a back seat and just chant and just pray, because we want to move towards the light. I'm sure each one of you listening today has got that, has made that priority. Guruji, हमें अपनी तरफ और भी खींचिए, जितना खींच सकते कीजिए. And for that, we have to melt and dissolve all our karmic issues that we're carrying. It's the karmic baggage. So to move towards the creator is the only priority worth living and dying for. All else is shadow boxing Veda. Baba and Rudra sat by the sea. It was late at night. It was a perfect night. A clear sky that stretched beyond the horizon. Stars that made innumerable designs in a blueprint that was alluring as well as mystical. When I went to Georgia, I witnessed this, by the way. I witnessed a clear sky that stretched beyond the horizon, and there were like clusters of stars above. And I just felt Guruji's presence. He's there. When you connect, he connects. He shows you his presence. So Rudra realized that there was a script in the sky that he could comprehend. It was as though nature had opened herself up to reveal all, but only a few could grasp the ancient language. If meditated upon, Rudra was certain even a leaf could speak the language of the gods. One just had to be open to listen and absorb. Beta, the world is now less interested in the journey and the destination, and particular about the luggage carried and the vehicle used. Do you know that you can grasp the workings of the universe, and more importantly, your own self, as well as absorb every secret out there in the universal grid of knowledge, just by chanting your master's name? Therefore, Guruji used to say very repeatedly and very kind of ardently that Jira mantra jap hai, or sabse powerful chant hai. Repeatedly when we do Om Namah Shivaya, Shivji Sadasai, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivji Sadasai, repeatedly with love, compassion, humility, then the secrets of the universe will definitely open up to us. So by chanting your master's name or being in the moment of focusing on your breath and prayers, you don't need anything more, no books, no expensive workshops and courses. It's all here within us. Our breath, our chanting, and our love for our Guru. You don't need any more. No formal training, no physical exertion, no complicated breathing techniques, no intricate attempts to raising your Kundalini energy or esoteric ways of cleansing, aligning, harmonizing, and energizing your chakras. Nothing is required but selfless love and devotion to your master and pure love for all, animate and inanimate. The day you start praying or chanting, meditating, being a pure, decent soul, because and only because you love your master, and all you seek is the love of your master, then the universe smacks the lips and says, aha, now the kid is ready for some intergalactic, all-dimension learning and loving. When you do everything because you love your master and only want to love your master, then duality slowly disappears and all mysteries are revealed. When you love your master, your Guru, with all your heart, soul, and every cell of your being, and you want nothing but his or her love, then the real journey starts. Prayers, chanting, meditation, yoga, fasts, penance, knowledge, one of them or all of them are important to move closer to the light and the master. But to merge with the master and remove all duality and go beyond the grasp of destiny, one needs to be in love with the master. Become totally besotted by the master. Absorb in love, like Meera did for Lord Krishna. So much love that nothing else matters but wanting your master to accept your love and maybe even love you back. Of course, we want him to love us back. Though latter isn't mandatory, all your actions, thoughts, words, every little thing, therefore every major thing are propelled by the selfless love for the master. Nothing else matters as you have gone beyond all pain and fear. You stop worrying about destiny and horoscopes and astrologers and the scheming of petty individuals and the barbs of family and colleagues and the animosity of in-laws and the heartlessness of self-centeredness of a spouse or child. Nothing matters. Your love for your master has absorbed you and purged you and embraced you, and most importantly, completed you in every essence, like the dewdrops that quench the thirst of Mother Earth, as well as the torrential rains that bathe the planet with unconditional outpouring. You keep on loving your master, wanting only his or her love, but loving irrespective of what is received or perceived. It's pure, unadulterated love. So beta, when an individual comes to that stage of being in love, then all mysteries disappear. Kundalini and chakras start behaving themselves. Paranormal activities become as mundane as a cup of tea. Healing and out-of-body experiences take place, and everything is possible, but who cares? As all you care now is for loving and maybe receiving that love. Only that matters. The dogs sat near them. It was obvious to Rudra that they could see them, and for some reason, Rudra believed that they could even understand what they spoke. Blondie followed them like a shadow. Her love for Baba and Rudra was so untainted and selfless that it was as though this purity allowed Blondie to go beyond the three-dimensional troika and explore and merge with the beyond. Get beyond the glitter and gloss and showmanship of spirituality, and you will find simple, pure love. And that is real gold. The world has gotten besotted by the glamour, the glitz, the fame, and the glory of those who are trying to be spiritual, and thus has actually lost the most valuable requirement of spirituality: simplicity, silence, and surrender. How beautiful. 3 words one must take home with us today: simplicity, silence, and surrender. So simplicity in our very character, in our very nature, is absolutely imperative. Like Guruji used to say, "Chalakiya vich kuch nahi rakhya." Just be simple, be yourself. And then Guruji takes over. One day I asked him, and I know many of you who are listening knows this dialogue between Guruji and I said, "Guruji, मुझे थोड़ा सा चुस्त और चलाक बना दो, मैं दिल्ली में रहती हूँ." In Manchester, I was very happy to be myself. But in Delhi, I felt I needed to be smarter. So Guruji said, "Polya da rabunda, to jis tarah hai theek hai." And even today, I accept myself as I am. I try not to be somebody I cannot be. So all of us need to just be true to ourselves and just see. You will attract the truth, and you will attract achhi sangat. Because jaise sangat, waisi rangat. If you are in a aggressive, arrogant sangat, because wo bhi hota hai, so then unke rang bhi aap pe chढ़ jayenge. So be sure that you are with humble sangat, good sangat who will take you forward in this, because we are all there to walk each other home as a Guru family. We are all mentoring each other and walking each other home. So choose wisely. Nothing is required but selfless love for the Master. Become totally besotted by the Master, absorbed in love like Meera was for Lord Krishna. So much in love that nothing else matters but wanting your Master to accept your love and maybe even love you back. In my case, not maybe even love you back, but you have to love me back, though the latter isn't mandatory. Baba, why is it that there are so many people who pray earnestly, love selflessly, work honestly, are decent, good individuals, but yet go through so much pain, suffering, poverty, illness, and disgrace? Why? Yes, you will bring the elusive Lady Destiny into the picture, but living on earth is hard, and it's the reality, while destiny and the ramifications of one's past are so covered in the mist of lifetimes that it really isn't a consolation that one is being cleansed of their karmic dirt and being rejuvenated for a happier future. Maybe this lifetime or the next. Baba, people really are suffering. I hope you know that. They're losing faith. Their circumstances are making them tired, angry, bitter, depressed. And they're good people wanting to hold on, wanting to have faith, wanting to believe, praying so hard. But nothing seems to be going their way, Baba. Come on, there must be some way out. Baba. They were in the mountains. Rudra realized how easy it was for the members of the spirit world to move about with just intent as their vehicle. It was, in a way, a very heartwarming feeling. Our loved ones who were passed over were only an intense thought and a real feeling away. The moment you think of your loved ones and they feel the tug, and they know you are thinking and missing them, in a flash they are beside us. But we, poor souls, still on planet Earth, are so consumed by our own heavy vibrations and innumerable thoughts, incessant heaviness of the heart, and all the junk we insist on carrying in our heart, mind, body, and aura, that we don't feel the reassuring presence of our spirit brethren. Rudra had experienced the magic of the spirit world. He felt the power of love and thought. It cut both ways. Your power of love and thought could make your loved ones in the spirit world always be by your side, whenever you call them, but also if you were perpetually depressed or dependent or harrowed by life or by their absence, then often it compelled the spirit to become earthbound. He has seen it happen too often. Rudra realized how important it was to let go of the depression of losing a loved one, comforting in the knowledge that whenever you call out to them, they are with you. Beta, That is why one must be so careful of one's thoughts, words, and actions and intent. We are taught this in Buddhism. I was chanting for 3 years, became the leader in no time. And I think the most invaluable lesson I took away from that, which I could resonate with Guruji and Nizuka, is to watch very carefully and intently my every thought, word, and action. And of course, I have not arrived. I still judge, I still may criticize and blame, but I'm aware of my every negative and positive thought now. And that is important. So it is important to take over and accept with honesty and sincerity that where we are going wrong. Destiny is a hard taskmaker who never forgets, but destiny is also the best provider and also gives in abundance. I know it is hard for those living to wonder why they are going through so much pain, anxiety, hardship for no real known reason or fault of theirs in this particular lifetime. But for us, a lifetime is a journey of the soul from the time it leaves the maker till it merges with the maker. The cessation of duality and living in oneness means self-realization. And it is then that the individual spark merges with the great fire. You live only once, but exist countless times. Like each day one wears new clothes, the same way the soul keeps changing its physical appearance. But it's just another day in the journey of the soul. If somebody has hurt you, cheated you, robbed you, harmed you, that person has to pay for the misdeed. There are no ifs and buts about this. Those in power who misuse their position might get away in this lifetime, but they have to pay for their actions later. That is the law. That is the impartiality of nature. Justice is needed for the cleansing of the soul and to move forward towards the light. Tell me one thing, Beta. If somebody hurts you and gets away in this lifetime, wouldn't you question the justice of God? Wouldn't you say, God, I have done nothing wrong, but why must I suffer and the other rejoice? Well, nature, the perfect bookkeeper, never forgets. And the person who has hurt you or harmed you is going to pay for his or her mistake. Well, yes, whether in this lifetime or the next or the next 10 lifetimes, is something best left to the soul of the individual who has done the harm. Yes, the soul of the individual who has done the misdeed will decide when and where and how the payment is going to be made and that particular account cleared. It's up to the soul of the individual to make his or her own account clear. So again, we are given that choice. And the best part is that the individual is part of the entire plan. The so-called suffering each person is going through has been agreed upon by the individual when planning his or her new life on earth to clear as much karmic debt as possible, enabling the soul to move closer to the light. Come, I will show you something. I have created a situation for you to understand what I'm saying, as I have realized that there isn't much going on into your fat astral head. Yeah, sure, Baba. My fat astral head was quietly going about life when you pulled the plug, and here I am in some mountain with a fakir with an unusual and questionable sense of humor. Sure, let's go. Rudra then heard the most beautiful sound in all of creation, his master chuckling. The so-called suffering each person is going through has been agreed upon by the individual. This is the synopsis. So every suffering that we go through has been agreed upon by us when planning our new life on earth to clear as much karmic debt as possible, enabling the soul to move closer to the light. Can we take a 2-minute washroom break? Thank you. Please muse on what you have read, and I will be back in 30 seconds flat. Rina? So much to take away. I hope you're all enjoying the read. Okay.
Aunty, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. No, no wonder how it should originate. So Ruthra found the whole thing surreal. He was certain that Baba had created with just a thought the entire setting. He knew this wasn't real, or maybe it was more real than the happenings on earth. The power of intent was all that mattered in the spirit plane. Everything else was the outcome of intent. Even creation was the outcome of the first intent. No wonder each religion laid so much emphasis on good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. All were the resultant shadows of noble intent. So all religions teach the same thing, but we have misinterpreted, as we know, very badly and ugly. It's become quite like rivalry with one religion to another. So you see that old man? Rudra nodded. Let us take that old man as the master or spiritual guide for the layperson. Let's call the old man the destiny leveler. Now, can you see those young men? 3 of them are the old man's children, or in a spiritual sense, the disciples of the master. The plan is this. The 3 sons are addicts, addicted to drugs. To explain the plan of destiny, but in reality, aren't all people addicts? Some are addicted to power, some to money, some to lust, some to slander, some to pettiness, some to ego, and the list goes on. Their present state addiction is the accumulation of karma. All 3 of them who you see at the moment are thinking clearly. They want to get rid of their addiction, which could mean they are at the moment in the spirit plane planning their new life when they are reborn on earth. So now, thinking clearly, all they want is to get rid of their addiction or karma. The father or old man or the master of the spirit guides are planning the best and fastest way these children can be cleansed of their addiction and then can get on with life. Or in the spiritual terminology, to get on with their real journey. The young men want to wash away their addiction or sins and then start afresh on the journey of life. Is all this entering your divine fat head? Yeah, oh Supreme One, carry on. Can you see those 3 cottages? Yes, I can, Baba. Those 3 cottages could be represented as their temporary homes to work out their addictions, which could mean in this particular lifetime, the cottage represents their station in life, which has been decided to help them pay off their karmic debts and drop their addictions, or in other terms, their karmic baggage and inclinations. Their real home is the one on the east. Can you see that fabulous palace encircled by mountains and with those beautiful gardens, flowing streams, and can you hear the birds chirping and the celestial soothing music? I sure can, Baba. So, in that beautiful palace, do you know what is not available? Okay, is this a trick question? As you have that twinkle in your eyes? In that beautiful palace, your ghastly tea isn't available. And Baba began to chuckle. Story of my life. Get a master with an inclination for poor jokes. Okay, now you go and have a look at what's happening, and I will be with you again. Where are you going, Baba? Where can I go, son? I am with all my children all the time. All those who want me to be with them, I am with them. And you know, I'm always with those who are in the now. But sometimes it's important that you sense me rather than see me. So always know that you can sense your Guru's presence in your life, and you don't always have to see him. So like people say, you know, you've met him, we haven't met him. It's not important as much to see him than to sense him in your life. Rudra nodded. In the next instance, he was part of the meeting. The old man and the 3 young sons acknowledged his presence with a nod, and then Rudra smiled. The old man was Baba. Baba smiled. Are you sure this is what you all Are you sure this is what you all want? Baba inquired. Yes, Baba. We are tired of this baggage of addiction. Our journey and lives are on hold. And the worst part of it all is that the more we delay shedding the karmic baggage, the more difficult it gets every single day. The eldest of the 3 spoke. Are you sure you want to be completely cured, since at this moment you're all speaking with a calm mind and clear intentions? Once you're in the cottage and the pangs of withdrawals begin, you might think otherwise. We are all sure, Baba, said the youngest of the lot. And you, my child? Have to, Baba, there is no way. We are thinking clearly at the moment, and this is the right time to tear ourselves away from the imprisonment of addiction, spoke the middle one. Remember, the one who is the oldest will find it more difficult to get rid of the addictions, as the dependence is far greater. But the fact of the matter is that in the end, how you handle yourself will finally decide where you stand at the end of the journey. So here is the plan, as agreed by you, 3 children of mine. You all shall live in one of the 3 cottages. Each cottage has been designed to help you go through the phase of cleansing, best situated to each one's growth, strengths, and weaknesses. No matter what happens, the doors of the cottage will be shut and the doors can't be opened. No matter what happens, the doors will not be opened. Yes, Baba. However much we might plead, don't let us out. Because if you let us out, will we be back into this addiction? And then God only knows when better sense will prevail, spoke the youngest. Yes, beta. But remember, once you're in the cottage, in a short while, you will forget about all this cleansing and everything else. And maybe all you want to be set free, but it won't be setting you free. It will actually be pushing you further into the bowels of addiction. Yes, Baba, which is why the doors must never be opened, spoke the eldest. Remember, you have the option of breaking the addiction slowly. All 3 of them nodded. No, Baba, we need to break this cursed habit of ours. It has to be done in one go. There is only one way. We have tried to break it slowly, but it has not worked. Only got us further in. It has interfered with our growth. It has made us dwell in dark alleys and associate with those not good for us. It has to be this way. You know it too, Baba. Baba nodded. Give us a promise, Baba, that you will always be here with us. I will, but you might not be able to see me or want to see me. Just be with us, Baba. Go with peace now. 3 men, one by one, embraced Baba. Baba blessed them all. In a while, the 3 men disappeared. Baba turned toward. This is often how it happens, Beta, especially with souls who are old travelers. Before returning to earth, the council and masters and guides sit and decide, along with each child, what is best course for soul's growth. Those keen on cleansing themselves and most of their pending karma in order to move faster and closer to the light take upon themselves maximum karmic cleansing. It shows their love for the Lord. All have pending karma, but all may not want to go for such quick process. Some would rather go slowly, as they know themselves and are sure they won't be able to handle the heat that is generated from the fire of karmic cleansing. But some who can't bear the separation from the Master take upon themselves lifetimes of cleansing in one lifetime. In the end, the individual plays a very important role in his or her own journey back to Mathura. Baba, it's not going to be easy for them. Yes, but they have been given so many lifetimes to change. And even they know that each lifetime makes addiction more difficult to break. For the eldest of the 3, it's going to be very difficult. But if now he doesn't get out of it, then when? Remember, any addiction, be it drugs, drink, lust, greed, envy, hate, pettiness, sloth, gluttony, whatever feeds on indulgence. The more you feed it, the more powerful it gets. You need to starve it for it to disappear from the system. What one needs to do is simple. First and foremost, know who you really are. Understand your strengths, weaknesses, likes, dislikes, limitations, and advantages. Study yourself and then go about your life. If your weakness is alcohol, then try to avoid situations and friends who are going to be a bad influence. If your weakness is lust, then avoid people in situations or with people who could succumb and tempt you. And in all probability, succumb. If your weakness is money, don't put yourself in a situation where there's not some money lying around. Don't choose a profession where you could speculate and thus be ruined. Avoid heading a social organization where you could use the money on yourself rather than the poor. If you are aware that you could steal, make sure you aren't working as a cashier in a bank or handling the cash counter of a jewelry shop. Understand your weaknesses and strengths. You will be making your life easier. Similarly, understand the strengths, weaknesses, limitations, etc. of your loved ones. And accept the fact, just as you have your issues and weaknesses and limitations, so do they. And if you're finding it hard to overcome your weaknesses, even they might be finding they're going equally tough working on their limitations and failings. Life becomes easier when you use the same rules for others as for yourself. Why is it that you can accept your weaknesses and flaws, but want everybody around you to be perfect? Work on yourself and only you. That is what nature wants you to do. And the more you work on yourself, the more compassionate you will be with the flaws of others. This is very interesting. So we always finger point towards the other person. But when we really work on ourselves, we do become compassionate towards other people's weaknesses too. But we are not to judge them, and we are not to focus too much on them. We need to focus, have this tunnel vision on our own flaws and on our own spiritual involvement. The most humane people are those who are working on themselves, but they know how difficult it is to work on one's inherent nature. And thus it becomes easier to accept the flaws and inherent tendencies of others. Life is simple. Why does mankind complicate it so much? It's a mystery that even angels are finding it hard to decipher. So, synopsis, guys. Life becomes easier when you use the same rules for others as for yourself. Why is it that you can accept your weaknesses and flaws, but want everybody around you to be perfect? Work on yourself. That is what nature wants you to do. And the more you work on yourself, the more compassionate you will be with the flaws of others. Rudra realized that everything that had taken place was surreal. It was as though time didn't exist, or time did exist, but not in the same manner as mankind comprehended it, and was used to the mechanism of the moment. The three men disappeared into their respective cottages. Each cottage was different in size, shape, comfort, luxury, and even in its very location. The cottage in the middle was not as flamboyant as the one to its left, while the one to the right was a cottage that could collapse at any time, and it was obvious that inside too, just the basic necessities were provided. Rudra realized the significance of each cottage. Depending on the karmic implications and the necessary conditions created by past life actions, each of the men were provided with cottages differing in size and comfort. Beta. Physical comfort is not the indicator of one's karma of past lives. The lessons to be learned, experiences to be realized, weaknesses to be overcome, spiritual growth to be achieved, one's soul group to be interacted with, and the soul and soul purpose of this present lifetime decides where you are going to live and with whom and how. Thus, even one's extended families, financial graph of the individual, friends, so-called enemies, career, fame, country, health, etc., all depend upon karmic implications and the lessons to be learned. Just as heaven is not filled with vegetarians, similarly, being poor or rich is not the sole indicator of one's karmic blueprint. If a soul needs to experience poverty, howsoever evolved the soul may be, the individual will experience poverty all his or her life, as the main purpose of the individual in this lifetime is to experience poverty and the hardships that come along with the lack of money, with grace, serenity, happiness, and with positive surrender. If that person doesn't handle poverty and the trials and tribulations of poverty in the right manner, you can be assured that in the next lifetime, he or she will return to relive this experience and hopefully overcome it. That individual may be very evolved, but there are experiences to be learned, embraced, and mainly accepted. It goes the same with wealth. A sage may have conquered the trappings of lust, hunger, poverty, but can the sage overcome the trappings of wealth? Thus, the sage may be born into a very rich home, so that in this lifetime he or she learns to live spiritually, even with immense wealth. An old installment that comes along with the wealth. By the way, are you understanding anything that this noble, wise, handsome fakir of yours is expounding? Yeah, sure. I thought modesty was a prerequisite to being a fakir, but anyway. Baba smiled, blessed Rudra, and then disappeared. He then heard Baba speak within himself. Sit, shut your eyes, and let the movie roll beta. Now he talks about the three individuals who have chosen to come into the physical plane to overcome their addiction. Are we all tuned in? So just to go through the synopsis before we talk about these three souls. Physical comfort is not the indicator of one's karma in past lifetimes. The lessons to be learned, experiences to be realized, weaknesses to be overcome, spiritual growth to be achieved, one soul group to be interacted with, and the soul and soul purpose of this present lifetime decides where you are going to live and with whom and how. Okay, so these are all choices we make. Wow, we're doing well. Are we okay? Good time. Let me just check. Rudra sat down under a beautiful tree. It was a gigantic tree with huge branches and leaves of various shapes and sizes and flowers of such differing hue that for a long time he gazed as though mesmerized. The fragrance was so sublime that Rudra could have shut his eyes and let existence roll by without wanting to ever get up and get on with the karmic journey. Remember, beta, the purpose of the soul is to merge with the Creator, not to lose oneself in the journey or in his creation. Just as in the physical body, one can get distracted from the main purpose of the soul. Even in the astral form, one could easily get waylaid by the grandeur and harmony that envelops the spiritual world. Priority is so important, be it in any dimension. Without priority, one for sure could get lost in the maze of illusion that surrounds us all. Rudra shut his eyes and focused on the first cottage, the most humble of the lot, barely able to withstand his own weight. What took place was like a dream. Rudra witnessed everything, but it passed as though in flashes. The eldest of the three was in this cottage. Rudra realized why the eldest was given the setting: poverty, bad company, physical abuse, emotional degradation. The very environment that prevailed made the conditions for the soul to overcome the baggage of addiction and moral degradation immensely difficult. Rudra understood the implications. Nature had given this individual ample chances where the conditions were perfect to overcome addiction and other inherent weaknesses and straighten out the karmic blueprint. But the free will factor was used to further get entrenched into addictions, and thus in this lifetime, though the agenda remained the same, the conditions had become very difficult. The cards were stacked up against the individual, and every recurrent lifetime, things would get only more difficult and the conditions more pathetic. It's like you fail once, you repeat the class again, but the curriculum gets more difficult every time you fail, and the environment gets more conducive for failure as your friends around you, your sitting arrangement, the attitude of the teachers, everything makes it more difficult for the individual to succeed. It's a very good analogy. Rudra felt sorry for this child. But for lifetimes, this individual had succumbed to addiction. And addiction is of different kinds: lust, anger, envy, jealousy, pettiness, hatred, deprivation. All were addictions of one kind. And in this case, it was drugs. But it never remained constricted to one addiction. Drugs make you lie, cheat, steal, sell your body, make you angry, selfish, deceitful, virtually fill you up with immense negativity and force you to dwell in the dark zone of life. Thus, an addiction pervades the very fiber of your being. It affects your very soul. Rudra was certain that in this lifetime it was going to be very difficult for this individual to overcome his environment and then his addiction. I think the worst thing is that we forget that we've made this promise to the Master, to our divine, Supreme Soul. So on entering the human physical garb again, we forget. So then it becomes difficult again. So the challenges aren't taken calmly. So to overcome his environment and then his addiction, the man got into bad company as a child. And now Rudra realized how unfavorably the odds were stacked up against his child. His father and mother indulged in drugs. His friends were dealers. This was the life the child knew. His karmic baggage has created this environment. For a while, it seemed as though the child would fail once again and have to come back with more baggage. Is this what we do to ourselves? Make life more and more difficult through our own follies, weaknesses, and tendencies? And then you blame your master and God and everybody else around you, when the only person responsible for all the tribulations going on in his or her life is the individual itself. As Hindus also, I want to say, as Indians, I've noticed this, we always say, Meri kismat kharab hai, like Meri karam kharab hai. But the point is, we are the co-creators of our destiny. We have done wrong, so it is the free will that we have made the choices that we choose, and God only intervenes to help us clean up the mess that we have only created. So, it's when we understand this concept, then we stop playing the blame game even towards the creator or towards our own destiny. So when you blame your master and God and everybody else around you, when the only person responsible for all the tribulations going on is in his or her life is the individual itself. Tell me, beta, where does God or master even come into the picture? This child, through many lifetimes of wrongdoing and making the wrong choices and the misuse of free will, has now created a monster, which seems to be keep growing stronger with every subsequent lifetime, feeding on weaknesses, lust for drugs. But it could be lust for anger, jealousy, pettiness. The master is around the individual. You can see me standing next to the child, but is he interested in embracing me? No. He's so caught up in his small world of pettiness and lust that I am no use to this child. So people, like Guruji used to say, it is not wrong to live our lives in moderation, of course, which we have learned, but it is important to do everything, but ye bhi karo. Rab ko bhi yaad karo. He used to say, satsang bhi aaya karo. Rab nu yaad karo. Sab kuch karo. Duniya ki cheeze bhi enjoy karo. But Rab ko nahi bolo. Because Rab hai to sab hai. It is so true. I have embraced this. Ke Rab hai to sab hai. So no matter how dark your day, there is always that light. There is always a candle to light. So it's up to us. We can flick the switch on or we can leave it off. Rudra nodded in agreement. I think Rudra also agrees with me. We can switch on the light. Yes, he agreed. The going was tough with his child. Yes, he agreed. It was the child's doing and only he was to be blamed. But he also agreed that all the child had to do was embrace the master's energy and let go of the anger and all the dark emotions that held him captive. And Rudra was certain things would begin to change for this child. Change in the form of karmic cleansing, not necessarily in the form of change in his physical or financial setting. For a while, the man continued his journey of deprivation. Rudra saw astral guides try to help the child, but often the child was so consumed with his weakness that the guides had no access to enter his auric sphere. They stood by the side and watched the child slide further down. It was sad. It was not needed. It was heartbreaking. And all that the child had to do was accept his lot and not give in to the weakness. It wasn't as though the indulgence gave the child any happiness or satisfaction. It was a karmic pull, and the child gravitated towards it and further degraded his karma. Baba, can't you do anything? I know he has told you not to open the door of the cottage under any condition, thus helping him to escape his environment and circumstances. But can't you help him, Baba, in any way? I can help him in every way, beta. But he has to go through his lot. That is what the child has insisted upon. He wants to balance his karmic account and has asked me specifically to let him go through his fate in the hope that he rises above his weaknesses and then can renew his journey towards the light. The cottage door is nothing but symbolic to his circumstances. And I have been told, no matter what, never to open that door. I have to respect what his soul truly desires. Many times when children pray to me, asking me to remove a particular weakness from them, But beta, if the weakness is taken away by us, how will the child prove his or her love for the Creator? The work must be done. The child has to overcome the weakness to prove his or her love for the Lord and thus pave the way to merge with Him. But Baba, he's taking a major beating. If he continues this way, he will be in worse state karmically than before. If he truly loves God and me, he will rise above his weakness. Or else, one more journey next time. And that time, it will be worse, won't it, Baba? Yes, it gets harder every time round. The cottage door or circumstances would never open to let this child out. Within the child would never come out of his weakness. Rudra entered the cottage. He couldn't stand and watch this child get deeper into degradation. The man was physically in very bad shape. He lay in bed. He was skinned to the bone. He had nobody around him anymore. He stared at Baba's photograph, a torn photograph that was stuck to a wall, dirty and peeling away. The man continued to look at the photograph. Rudra could see the guise of this man giving healing to this child. The man stared at Baba, and Rudra could see the man's aura change slowly. Tears began to flow down his unshaven cheeks. Baba, please help me. I know I'm a sinner. I'm weak. I've let you down each day, again and again. Forgive me, Baba, and have mercy on me. I don't want anything. Just don't let me dishonor you. Please, Baba. Help me to make you happy and proud of me. I want nothing else. I don't want any circumstances to change. I don't want happiness. I don't want money. I don't want comfort. All I want is to make you happy and proud of me. Help me to accept my lot with grace and positive surrender. Help me to fight this weakness. Don't cure me of my weakness. Help me to overcome it, O Deva. That much grant me. Oh, my Baba, that much you have to give me. The moment he completed the prayer, Baba stood by the man. Rudra understood everything now. Baba had promised never to open the cottage door. Baba had promised never to help in changing the karmic blueprint. Baba had vowed to stay away from easing the man's lot, as the man had to undergo his lot to cleanse his very soul. Thus Baba had stayed outside, but was always around. Now Baba was with the child. Why? Rudra understood it all. The man had not asked for drugs, not asked for freedom, not asked to be released from the cottage, karmic ramifications, not asked for love, money, comfort, nothing. All he asked for is grace and positive surrender, to accept his lot and to make Baba happy and proud of him. That Baba had to grant. How could he not? So when we ask for the real deal, that Guruji, give us grace and positive surrender and surrender to accept what has been dealt, the cards that have been dealt to us. So acceptance is the key to happiness and peace. Nothing changed, everything changed, nothing changed. The external remained the same, poverty, hardship, allegations, illnesses, but internally the man had transformed. He accepted his lot with grace, and through this grace, the claws of addiction began to weaken. The man died due to the prolonged effects of abuse. Peacefully, not overcome. If not completely, then almost, and that was good enough for Rudra, and it was surely good enough for Baba. Nothing changed in the external environment of the man. He was born poor, he died poor, but spiritually he died rich. And Rudra was certain the next time things would be much better. When the child decided to come back to Mother Earth, Baba stood in front of Rudra. So what did you learn? That external circumstances might not change for a higher purpose and the individual's overall well-being. However, much the boy or his family prayed for overall material transformation, things wouldn't have changed, as each member of the boy's family were part of the larger karmic plan. The circumstances and the overall scenario had everybody's larger karmic cleansing in mind. The boy's mother was part of the situation, as in many lifetimes, she has, in the name of love, allowed the boy to drift into weaknesses and addictions. She had played an important role in the boy's fall from grace and thus had to bear the brunt of her misplaced love. The boy's father, in earlier lifetimes, was into the trade of addiction. This lifetime, he tried his best to save his son, but couldn't. And no matter how much he prayed to the Lord, he too had to face the consequences of his past actions. The wife was a man's soul group companion. who decided to be part of the boy's this lifetime journey to help him overcome addiction. Each member of the family or friends circle or even detractors are part of the karmic circle. Though he reformed to a large extent, his external circumstances did not change. He didn't become rich. He died of an illness that was caused by addiction. Everything remained the same, but he changed. And he was able to come to a level of understanding and acceptance, and thus this lifetime he succeeded. He overcame to a very large extent his weaknesses, and that is all that matters to us. Thus, when you say, why don't you help out? We are helping out much more than anybody can ever realize, but we do it our way and in a manner which is best for the overall good and well-being of the child and all those connected with the individual. Nature isn't partial. It will not allow anything that you don't deserve to reach you, neither good nor bad. And nature, karma, or God, or guides, or masters, all are rolled into one. We'll never have a personal vendetta against you. When you suffer, we suffer much more. If a child is imprisoned, the parents and the family suffer much more, though they are out in the world and not under lock and key. If the child is true and wants to walk the path, then every tear shed by that child goes noticed, and the angels, guides, and masters share the pain. This is the truth. You are never alone when in pain, never ever alone. Your loved ones who are in the spirit plane, your guides, your masters, all are with you. Real pain is always shared. The purpose of the soul is to merge with the Creator, not to lose oneself in the journey or in this creation. How are we faring, guys? Just a heads up and a little sip of tea. Can I take 10 more minutes to talk about the second cottage, or do you want to leave it till tomorrow? Please give a heads up.
We can go ahead, Auntie. We have time today.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so the second cottage. Are we all happy with what we have read so far about the first cottage?
Beautiful.
Wow. The second cottage was far better in every respect. So the first cottage learned his lesson and he had overcome his addiction by far. Now, the second cottage was far better in every respect. Now, you know what I take away from this also? Sometimes when we see other people's lives, even our lives, that the external situation doesn't change. But when we are in that acceptance and positive surrender, it's the internal change that happens. So internally we change. That internal change is much more important than the external. So the person may not become rich, even while praying to God, a Guruji, might not get a better quality of life, but internally there is a radical change. So the second cottage was far better in every respect from the earlier one that Rudra had entered. This one was clean, simple, practical, a home of the common man, a middle-class haven, a home that had everything needed to live a decent, straightforward life, a home where God was an integral part of the family, and where the Lord was loved, feared, pampered, and admonished, and where life revolved around auspicious days and festivities. The youngest of the three men was born into such a family. He had obviously lived his past lives in a more controlled, God-fearing manner, and thus he had been blessed with an environment that would make it easier for him to deal with this karmic baggage and weakness. Unlike the first case, who was born in an environment that was fertile for moral collapse, this cottage, the entire package, physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, medical, family unit, and everything else that was involved, was designed to help each individual to work out karmic issues, balance one's accounts, and continue on the journey towards the light. All of nature is programmed to facilitate each individual to walk the path with the least possible baggage. Beta, remember one thing, and that is the most important thing to be remembered. Even if 90% of one's life is already predetermined, and each individual has only 10% in his or her own control, I would still say that the 10% you have a free will and in your control is more important than the 90% in the karmic vault bank. It is through free will that you are going to prove your love and dedication to your master. Your destiny is already charted, but your free will is going to make your future karma and destiny. In the sense, if you are destined to go through certain hardships, and this is for your overall well-being, then you will go through the experiences. But your free will is paramount in this whole business of balancing one's karmic blueprint. How you go through the experience is so vital in deciding your future in the physical and spirit planes. If you go through the experience with bitterness, you have created more issues for yourself. You will have to relive the experiences as nature wants you to rise above it. If you don't rise above a situation and experience, it means you aren't ready to move on. And thus you will have to go through the same experience again. It is your free will that will decide where you stand on the karmic ladder. If you go through your experiences calmly, in a positive manner, then you have used your free will constructively, converting something not pleasant to your advantage. Everything is not destined. If all is destined, then how are we going to grow? And how will your future karmic pattern be decided? The purpose we have put these three men in different environments is to see where they stand spiritually. Yes, karmic cleansing is a must, but what is more important is how you go through the process of karmic cleansing. Rudra nodded. Every day, each moment, one has the option of using one's free will for either soaring towards the light, plummeting into the abyss of darkness. So we have a choice. We all have a choice, no matter what situation we are put in. We have a choice to reject the negative and move towards the light, or succumb to the negative and plummet into darkness. Temptations will always be there, but it's how we overcome the temptations. Rudra nodded. Every day, each moment, one has the option of using one's free will for either soaring towards the light or plummeting into the abyss of darkness. Soaring towards the light. Each moment actually decides your future. Each moment, you have the power to move closer to your master or move away. So each moment is priceless. Each breath is priceless. So we must use it wisely. Imagine yourself doing nothing much, but every moment mentally chanting your master's name, accepting your lot with grace and positive surrender, being a decent human being, trying your best not to hurt anybody, and working on your own weaknesses. Don't you think you have lived a successful life? Irrespective of what you may or may not have achieved materially, you still are a success as you have utilized your free will ideally. It means you have accepted your lot with grace and thus made your master and your very soul proud and happy of you. How can you not progress spiritually then? Each day has countless moments where you can chant your master's name and make him proud of you. If you use your quantum of free will to rise, you are set for this life. You are set for this life, this lifetime, and in all others that you are in store for you, be it in the physical or the spirit world. Rudra entered the second cottage. Here goes. Once again, in flashes, he saw the entire lifetime of the youngest of the lot. This man had everything going for him. Family support, he was spiritually on the right path, protected the boy from his own weaknesses. The circle of acquaintances and friends were far from the world of drugs. There was just enough money to live a peaceful life, but not so much wealth that could create unnecessary obstacles for spiritual growth. But the man succumbed to his weakness, and slowly, everybody around him began to get affected. The mother spent more and more time in prayer. The father distanced himself from the boy, as he couldn't handle his son's spiraling journey into a life of depravity and darkness. The more the boy got entangled in his weakness, the more the mother prayed. But the boy kept using his free will for further degradation. He refused to listen. He was imprisoned in his own personal hell of weakness. Yes, he wanted to be free from the clutches of his weakness, but his love for his lust was far more than his love for the master. Thus, from a spiritual being, he became an atheist. He abused God and all the masters. The mother prayed harder. The master, all merciful, gave the boy another chance. The master made sure the boy was put into the prison that was completely clean of drugs. In this particular prison, The environment was drug-free. For a while, it was hell for the boy. He tried to commit suicide, but the mother's prayers and the master's grace pulled the boy through. Eventually, after 6 months, the pangs for drugs subsided. The boy eventually got free of the clutches of his weakness. His mother's prayers had been answered. The boy was released. 2 days later, he died of an overdose. The father died of a broken heart. The mother kept praying. Rudra felt depleted of all the energy. It seemed the very heavens tried to help the boy overcome his addiction. But eventually, free will, the wrong choice of free will, had nullified all spiritual help and even the soul's intention of overcoming his weaknesses. Beta, as you see, Beta, as you saw, now Baba talking. We tried our best to help the child overcome his limitations. The setting was perfect. All that the child had to do was use his free will to stay away from moral degradation. Eventually, he had to make sure he was put in an environment where he had no option but to free from the clutches of weakness. But he still chose darkness over light. That is how important free will is, Beta. The mother's prayers for many may have remained unheard, but we heard her. And knowing that the best recourse would be to put the child into prison and clean up his act may not seem like an answer to her prayers, but it was the best remedy. The mother understood God's plan and hence kept on praying. But no matter how much you pray, eventually one's decision to soar or plummet will decide your future and your journey, and most importantly, your destination. The father failed too. He had to face his son's battle with his weakness with calmness and positive acceptance. He chose his free will by being filled with negativity and a sense of hopelessness. He began to hate God too. He too chose to plummet into darkness rather than sing with the angels. Thus, in this lifetime, the only one who really moved forward was a mother, not because she prayed, but because she accepted and still tried her best to make a positive difference in the lives of her son and husband. She didn't pray for a miracle. She prayed for common sense to prevail in her son and husband. We created an environment to help both the men. They chose otherwise. Now, in such a situation where an individual chooses not to overcome his weakness, makes the personal choice of moving into darkness, and where the master has been told clearly that he should not intervene, thus giving the individual a chance to prove his or her worth to the master. All we can do is hope that the right free will prevails. Remember, there is a difference in the two men. Both died due to drug-related problems. But the first man realized his mistake, rid himself of false ego, anger, and negativity, and accepted his lot with open arms. He died a pauper, but to us, he died a prince. The second man, having all the chances and opportunities to rise above the situation, even after being cleaned up, yet chose to succumb to his weakness. Both men died of drug-related issues, but there is a difference of heaven and hell in the manner they chose to live and die. Synopsis. The 10% you have as free will and in your control is more important than the 90% in the karmic vault bank. It is through free will that you are going to prove your love and dedication to your master. Your destiny is already charted, but your free will is going to make your future karma and destiny. So shall we choose to discuss this? Any comments or any feedback, as in what we read today? Feedback's not on how I'm reading. I hope I'm reading well. So no criticism there, thank you. I'm just joking. So, but yeah, basically on the content. Everybody? Anybody?
Yeah, like anybody who has any questions can please raise their hand. And Auntie, I wanted to ask one thing, if you can explain. Like you said that, like you read that, no one asks for the real deal. And the real deal is to merge with the light.
Mm-hmm.
So, as in, is it that you are asking to like aboard this earth by merging into light? Can you just explain this part, merging into light?
See, the ultimate goal of every soul is to merge into the light. Now, that's the ultimate goal. Now, the pathway throughout the journey for asking for that, then the obstacles will remove the obstacles of our own obstacles, which are whatever it is, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar, maybe more, right? All the vices that we carry and all the negativity that we carry. When we say that we want to be a good human being and we want to make our Guruji proud of us, when that becomes, you understand? So when that becomes goal and say, not, see, when that actually becomes the ultimate goal and not asking for a bigger house or a bigger promotion or whatever, the worldly things, then God helps you to clear that. But you need to be first aware. See, there's many layers to this. There's many layers to reaching that light. So the layers are, first, I become aware of my fears, bitterness, anger, resentment. First, I become aware that, okay, my most deeply embedded emotion is, say it's bitterness, okay? Bitterness towards what? Bitterness towards my destiny. That, okay, my husband doesn't talk to me, or my children are rude to me, or my mother-in-law is this and that. So I'm bitter towards everyone in my surrounding. And I am also bitter towards my whole life, okay? But I'm aware that I'm bitter, but I don't use my free will to change that. I don't use my free will to accept people as they are in my environment. Because when I go into acceptance and positive surrender of what is and don't react further, because the more we react and the more we, kind of are bitter towards, everyone around me, then I am not creating more karmic blueprint, right? I'm actually decreasing it. Because then God intervenes. How He intervenes is because now we have said, I surrender this situation to you, and I chant His name, and I center myself. I become calmer. When I become calmer, then I, obviously, when I become calmer, I'm opening those doorways and I'm removing those obstacles. So, when we blame and point fingers, like I said earlier, okay, meri to destiny aisi hai, meri kismat aisi hai. That is not true. We are the co-creators. We've only created our destiny and our karma. But God does help us to cleanse a lot. Like He said, 90% may be predestined, but that 10% of that free will is what we need to exercise. Does that make sense? And that free will has to be noble and pure and good for us to go more towards the light. More towards the light means just be on that path of Guruji. You understand? To be more on that goodness. And then finally, of course, we merge into the light, which is what we can term as moksha, nirvana, call it whatever you want. There's many words to it. But the point is that we've cleansed our karmic blueprint totally, hopefully. And we don't have to, again, get trapped in the cycle of, birth and death. Because there's a cycle, right? Even this incarnation, we're part of a cycle. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Auntie. So, like, anybody else who wants to ask anything or share?
Mantra is Om Namah Shivaya Shivji Sadasai. Of course, after Guruji left his body, then people added Om Namah Shivaya Guruji Sadasai. Both are absolutely correct. See, remember the intent, intent, as the book also said, our reading said, intent is very important. Agar main bol rahi hu Om Namah Shivaya Shivji Sadasai with a pure loving intent, that is what is accepted by the gods. But if I'm saying, resentfully, if I'm doing it, I'm saying, oh, aadha hai ye. Both are right. It's been a wonderful journey of reading. I hope you're all enjoying. Now we have just 30 people, which tomorrow we will, in fact, complete. So I'm so happy that we've been able to read it in the timeline that we were given. So thank you so much, everyone. If there are no kind of inputs, then we will call it a day. Have a lovely, wonderful Sunday, wherever you are.
Thank you so much for doing this seva. A lot of Sangat is really benefiting it because a lot of Sangat hears the recording.
Yes.
So, Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Shilpi. Thank you, Sangati. God
Jai
bless you.
Guruji.